ReZero, Volume 5, Chapter 1, Part 4, A Decaying Mind. Excellent timing, Subaru. Would you come with me for a while? Subaru had finished bathing and was on his way back to his room when someone addressed him in the lobby on the second floor of the Krush residence. The long-haired woman was ascending the stairs and carrying a tray when she called out to him. For a moment, he wasn't sure who it was, since the outfit and aura she gave off were completely different from usual. Subaru's only reaction was to raise his brows. Miss Krush? It is. Is there something odd about it? Ah, I see. This is the first time you have seen me in an outfit unrelated to my duties. I imagine it has startled you. Krush seemed to realize what had unsettled him. The outfit she normally wore that resembled an army uniform was gone. In its place, she wore a nightgown with thin, dark fabric and a cape over the shoulders. Unlike the scrupulously buttoned-up military uniform, the nightgown showed off her very feminine physique with every step, greatly altering the aura she projected. Subaru was averting his eyes, feeling vaguely embarrassed, but Krush apparently hadn't noticed. She continued, Either way, it is fortunate that question has been resolved. To return to the original question, do you have some spare time? If it pleases you, I would like to have a drink with you this night. I don't drink alcohol, though. You may sip water if you wish. I do not intend to drink enough to become inebriated. She smiled a little as she rose farther up the stairs. Subaru was a little thrown off, but finding no reason to court her displeasure, made a short run to catch up. She led Subaru to a balcony on the third floor of the mansion. A white table and chairs had been placed in one corner of the terrace. Krush sat down first and indicated the opposing chair with her gaze, so Subaru meekly complied. The breeze is very refreshing tonight. It's the perfect weather since I like to drink my liquor while watching the night sky. I'm wondering why you invited me today, though. You could have invited Ferris or someone. Of course, normally I would have Ferris with me. However, he must work late this evening. Krush must have been referring to Ferris's work as a healer, in great demand even in the royal capital. Just as Ferris had done for Subaru in that evening, he treated numerous people on a daily basis. It was a packed schedule that made almost no allowance for free time. Besides that, it's good to exchange drinks with someone of a different rank and position once in a while. I said it once already, but I don't drink alcohol, you know? You can simply add plenty of ice. You may even fill it with cold water if you wish. Now, then. The tray on the table had a pair of wine glasses on it. In one, she poured amber-colored alcohol. In the other, she poured clear water. Subaru accepted the water, reluctantly touching his glass to Krush's. The light clink was accompanied by the sound of the ice shifting within it as Krush narrowed her eyes. It seems you are anxious about a number of things, but please be at ease. I have not brought you here out of any desire to interrogate you. I swear that it is no such petty trick. No. I wasn't worried about that. There is no need to try to hide it. I can see anxiety and doubt in the night breeze around you. As we belong to rival camps, I am actually relieved by your wariness. That way, I do not forget my own principles. Krush made a show of enjoying her half-filled glass, savoring it with her red tongue. Subaru, desperate to wash away the sense that she could see right into his mind, poured the cold water down his throat. So these last few days, you've been pretty busy. Is it related to the royal selection? As soon as I tell you caution is unnecessary, you plunge straight into the heart of the matter. I certainly did not expect that. I do think that is exactly how rival camps should be, however. Not knowing my place, and not reading the mood, are kind of my defining characteristics. I would add spinning your own vices into virtues on the list. Certainly, it is the royal selection that has kept me occupied these last few days. It has added to Ferris's and Wilhelm's labors as well. Her wineglass held at an angle. Drew spoke smoothly and in good humor. She seemed even more attractive than usual to Subaru's eyes, so he shifted his attention to the courtyard, which was in sight of the balcony. And it's related to all the stuff you've been hauling into the mansion and the people coming and going? A sharper eye than I expected. Or rather, the scale was large enough that you could not fail to notice. With no sign that her good mood was waning, Krush loosened her lips and replied to Subaru's question. It's not unrelated at all. My house is currently assembling all the men and material possible for a particular task. It may cause you and Rem some trouble in the coming days. I feel like it's us who are causing you a lot of trouble, but what's this particular task? Have you heard the details of how Wilhelm came to enter my service? After his question was answered with another question, Subaru couldn't say anything. He understood only that the particular task Krush had mentioned concerned Wilhelm, and that the details were not a topic he could broach without the old man's permission. You are free to speculate. It seems I have said too much. Wilhelm might well scold me for this. Wilhelm doesn't look like someone who'd talk to his master like that, though. He is a man without mercy. You should watch him instruct me in the sword at least once. He must think of our first meeting as a rather embarrassing one himself. Krush made a wry smile, savoring the wine with the colorful tip of her tongue as she switched subjects. Subaru also sought a change in subject to reset his mind. So you have a sword lesson every day too, huh? Surely you are not saying I should not wield one because I am merely a woman? Subaru instinctively responded with embarrassment, but Krush winked at him. I jest. It is merely something I am accustomed to hearing since my youth, that the little Karsten princess is both a maiden as well as a crazed fencer. I was considered the fool of the Duke's house for my love of getting my hands dirty more than flowers. That's pretty different from the rumors I've been hearing. In public, all the common folk are praising you, saying you'll leave your mark on the kingdom's history. The people changed their appraisal when they learned of my exploits. The sudden shift was rather calculating of them in my opinion, but it is my own fault for not having produced results in all that time. I do not intend to blame lords for altering their public stances. As for the rumors in the city, I can only call them embarrassing. She was apparently a big enough person to accept whatever people said about her deeds, for good or ill. Krush never averted her eyes from discussion about being merely a woman. Public opinion had dramatically changed because of her exploits, which jogged Subaru's memory about something. So that famous first battle was what changed how everyone thought of you? As Subaru pursued the topic, Krush rested her lips on her wineglass and she let out a small sound. Her amber eyes narrowed. It is embarrassing. She turned her head with an uncharacteristic pout on her face. Subaru continued. How can it be embarrassing? I heard demon beast attacked your land, and you handled it great in your father's place. That's pretty cool for first battle, isn't it? Of course not. Let me correct one misperception. I did not fell the demon beasts. I merely drove them off. I was a princess hastily and impudently taking command in place of her injured father. But it worked, didn't it? Of course it did. I could not allow my first sortie to end in failure after I brushed aside my father's objections. However, the problem is the extent of the results. To me, my naivete at the time is a shame most difficult to bear. Her mood had not fallen, but Krush wasn't sugarcoating anything either. She didn't think it was worthy of heroic tales. The topic Subaru had chosen was, from her perspective, a sore point of sorts. Thus, Krush concluded the topic, shooting Subaru a jovial look. You are rather fond of needling people yourself, as expected of a political rival, I suppose. Subaru was completely unaware that he was such a person, but she'd given him no room to argue. He brought the ice-cold glass to his lips and tried to change the topic in an attempt to smooth over the awkwardness. So, incidentally, what else has changed besides that? Let me see. Since word of the royal selection spread, the number of proposals has increased by leaps and bounds. Such talk comes with the territory of being a duchess to begin with. Subaru spewed out water without thinking when his probing of a rival's internal circumstances took an unexpected turn. Proposals, as in proposals for marriage? I will soon be 20 years of age. Marrying then is not uncommon. It is awkward due to my gender and position, so I have deftly evaded such talk until now. The Duchess thing must really intimidate the men. A rather blunt way to put it, but that is indeed the case. A few have come forward to take my hand, each trying to make me his, but that was then, and this is now. Krush closed her eyes as a larger sip of wine flowed across her tongue. Her position as a royal candidate made her an especially pivotal person for the nation. No doubt there was a horde of potential suitors coming out of the woodwork who'd never made an attempt for her hand. Miss Krush, you're pretty optimistic about this proposal talk. Are you looking to get married? I wonder. It is a topic I have pondered myself. If I were to marry someone, he might be of great assistance to me in many situations, including ascendance in the royal selection. But all the candidates are single women, so the conditions are the same for all. I suppose matters are slightly different for Priscilla Burial, who is a widow. Hearing Krush's opinion, a wave of anxiety pressed against Subaru's innards. I see. Everyone's single. Similar conditions. Marriage, huh? Marrying someone of high status meant bringing that person into one's political camp. If Krush had received marriage proposals, the other candidates probably had too. Naturally, the same could be said for the young Amelia. Forgive me, Subarunovsky. I have been somewhat mean to you in revenge. Eh? Subaru, distracted by the possibility of Amelia marrying, was slow to react to the apology. All individuals chosen as candidates for the Dragonfriend ceremony are forbidden to marry during the royal selection period. Nominally, it is because one should put the kingdom before the self, but in reality, it is more of a desperate measure to prevent marriage ties from exacerbating political conflict. Then all these marriage proposals you've been getting? I will assess them all after the royal selection is complete. Making the proposals beforehand rather than after the fact is more acceptable, I suppose. I will not make empty promises only to revoke them later, however. Subaru sighed with relief. If marriage arrangements were prohibited, there was no danger of Amelia being married off to someone behind his back. But one can hammer out all the details while leaving the actual marriage for later. Subaru suddenly complained, Miss Crush, do you enjoy toying with the hearts of men? You prodded at my own source of shame first. The least I could do was to return the favor. Crush tilted her glass without a single hint of guilt. Besides, people are usually too conscious about differences in rank to be honest with their own hearts. I have a rather deep interest in how such affairs will be settled. Worry about your own love life before someone else's. Sheesh. If you're pushing 20, you must have one. Since she'd been toying with him, Subaru tried to counterattack, but the reply he received was unexpected. Unfortunately, having been born a Karsten means I cannot hope for freedom in marriage. I'm still a woman, however much I may deviate from the conventional norms. In contrast to Subaru's romantic fantasies, Crush had already given up on her own freedom to decide her relationships. It was a natural view of marriage in a world where status and family determined partners regardless of personal interest. As Crush's eyes gazed at the melting ice in her glass, they quietly held unshakable will and resolve. Subaru took his time trying to form a rebuttal, but he was unable to speak a word. With the night breeze blowing across the balcony, Crush ran a hand through her fluttering hair. She had pale skin, almond eyes, beautiful green hair, and a profile filled with such beauty and elegance as to shake others to the core. As much as she said she deviated from the norm, Crush was a beautiful woman. That fact did nothing to detract from the sublime nobility of her beliefs. Unable to bear the silence, Subaru chose a topic that might have been overly vague. Miss Crush, what do you think of the royal selection? She began in response, closing her eyes as she thought it over. I spoke of it at the Royal Selection Conference, but I harbor misgivings about the state of this country. You did say that, yeah. If I take the throne, my policies will be as I stated. In spite of that, the Dragon Tablet selected me as a candidate, someone who would surely reject the Covenant. This is either the dragon's will or that of some divine being. Do you not think so, Subrunatsky? As Crush posed her question, Subaru fell silent. Since he was unable to immediately give her a reply, she continued. I do not overestimate or underestimate my own abilities and position. Reputation comes not from within, but from others. It is especially so for one who rose to the status of candidate as I did, judged by those who thought nothing of me. It's not how I have lived until now that should be judged, but how I live from now on. It sounds like you want to make people pay for judging you like that. Quite the contrary. Reputation is something granted by others, but I believe it should be granted after the fact, not before. If someone has a certain level of ability, judge her once you have seen the results. And yet the Dragon Tablet brought me, when convinced of these things, within reach of the throne. Perhaps that was a smart thing to do. Crush's amber eyes narrowed slightly as they gazed at the ice in her glass. Subaru couldn't think of a response. He felt like she viewed the world in a very different way than he did. Unable to bear his silence, Subaru tossed the ice in his glass into his mouth and crunched it down. Just as he tried to use the sound of crushing ice to break the silence, a scornful voice suddenly interrupted him. Ah! Why is Subaru here with Mew? Meow! In the direction of the cry, he could see Ferris rushing under the balcony, his shoulders heaving. He hurried to the table and banged a hand on it, shaking the glass bottles as Crush thanked him for his labors. "Thank you for your hard work, Ferris. I'm sorry. I thought you would be back much later, so I had a drink with Subaru Natsuki as an appetizer." "Did you just call me an appetizer?" "Goodness, Fairy can't leave you alone for 1 second, meow." "Ah? And Lady Crush, you've had much more wine than usual, haven't you?" Ferris looked at how much liquid remained in the bottle as he spoke. "Being all friendly with Subaru. Having such a fun conversation. Ah, so jealous." "It is true I've enjoyed more wine than usual. He's a rare conversation partner, and we leap from topic to topic. Some of it was rather embarrassing, however." "People are going to get the wrong idea if you put it like that." "Grr, what is this? And Lady Crush, you're wearing such a defenseless outfit." When Ferris pointed it out, Crush looked down at her mere nightgown. She inclined her head slightly, raising her glass a little. "What of it? Do I not always dress like this when I have drinks with you in the evening, Ferris?" "That is the problem. You can't compare your time with Fairy to a ravenous beast of a man like this. Men are wolves, meow." As Ferris admonished Crush like an aggrieved parent, Subaru yelled back, "Hey, don't single me out here. You're a man too, aren't you?" Subaru had not forgotten about how Ferris's gender had thrown his heart for a loop. "That's because Fairy would never cast a lascivious gaze upon Lady Crush. But the way Subaru wanders this way and that, he can't be trusted, meow." "That's enough toying around, Ferris. All at the Royal Selection Conference know who Subaru Natsuki cares for. He would not set his sights upon a woman as lacking in charm as myself." When Crush eyed Subaru in search of agreement, he hesitated for a moment. Well, that's true, I suppose." Ferris instantly cut in. "Huh? What? You're disappointed with Lady Crush in some way? Do you want Fairy to kill you?" "Why do I need your approval for my answers?" Crush interrupted. "Wait, why did a wind of hesitation and deception flow from your direction just now? What does this—" "Ah, I see. You have Rem as well. Certainly, my words were not adequate." "And now she really has the wrong idea." Crush wore a very accepting expression, while Ferris glared frostily at Subaru. The conclusion she'd come to was trouble enough, but the usually adorable Catboy was quite intimidating when his expression was serious. Subaru desperately tried to explain and clear up the misunderstanding as the night breeze again washed over the three on the balcony. In front of Subaru, who was taking little sips of his water, Crush and Ferris filled their glasses to the brim with wine. As he watched them, he abruptly voiced something that had been nagging at him. "You two get along really well. Been with each other a long time?" Continuing to gather intelligence on the enemy?" Ferris asked. "Not at all. You just look so close. I wanted to come out and ask." Ferris sat alongside Crush, glancing at his master while enjoying the same wine. Subaru didn't think feelings that ran as deep as Ferris's were formed in a short period of time. "You are right. Ferris and I have been together for a long time. 10 years now, is it?" 10 years, 122 days, 6 hours, give or take, meow." "That's so specific it's scary, you know." Ferris glared at him. Subaru regretted his comment as the pretty boy put a hand to his own cheek. "Even now, Fairy can't forget that first glimpse of Lady Cruche. It's engraved into my memory. Since that day, Fairy has been Lady Cruche's eternal servant. Cruche commented, "You make too much of it, Ferris. I did no more than what was required of me. The fact that doing so earned me your loyalty is what I would call the most fortuitous event of my life." There was no distance between them. From a simple crossing of paths, they had become so incredibly close. The relationship as master and servant surely made them the pair with the strongest foundation out of everyone vying for the royal throne. "We get along fabulously, right? Unlike some other pairs I could mention," Ferris said. "Goodness, Subaru, you're too easy to see through." Ferris smiled, having bluntly revealed the thoughts currently rising to the surface in the back of Subaru's mind. His cheek twitched as he glared at Ferris, but the feline eyes watched him innocently as their owner tilted his wine glass. Cruche took up the topic instead, closing one eye and giving Subaru a stern look. "I presume that what has brought you to a standstill is your relationship with Amelia as lord and vassal." Cruche drew her chin in a little, gently licking her alcohol-drenched lips. "You cannot use my relationship with Ferris as a reference for resolving that stalemate. The issues between Ferris and me were resolved an entire decade ago." "My stalemate?" "Perhaps I should call it a rite of passage. Something that must be overcome by people before they can become lord and vassal in a true sense. Now that I think of it, right after Ferris decided to serve me, he explored what he could do through pure trial and error." Like a child being teased, Ferris's face turned red at having his past abruptly revealed. "Wait, Lady Cruche, please don't talk me out that. It's embarrassing." Cruche watched Ferris and shook her head. "It's nothing to blush over. How could the sight of one doing his best to locate his place and appropriately serve another be shameful? Impressed by resolve, I went to equal length to be a master who would not bring you disgrace. Even now, I do not know if I have achieved such a thing." "Fairy will never harbor dissatisfaction toward Lady Cruche, not in an entire lifetime." "You spoil me. You would say the same thing if I spent all my days in complete idleness. This is why I must have a strong character, to resist the temptations of depravity." It was a very humble-sounding statement, and Cruche seemed to be earnestly speaking from the bottom of her own heart. Ferris sent her an even more passionate look, but Subaru simply wanted to run away. Seeing the relationship and the absolute, unshakable trust between them tore at his heart. Cruche said to Subaru in a sharp voice, "Do not lower your eyes, Subaru Natsuki." "Eh?" "If your eyes become clouded, your soul will go astray. That will mean your future is closed and you've lost your purpose for living. When you follow your own sense of justice, you can do any number of things if you just look at the ground. Lift your face, look forward, reach out your hand. Even when doing something for others, you must be able to see them for your feelings to get across." Subaru's throat caught. Every drop of blood in his body froze. For a moment, Cruche's words drove a nail into his heart. Still, she didn't look at the frozen boy, but at the wine in her inclined glass. Subaru wondered, if those eyes pierced him at that very moment, what would have happened? Perhaps, at that instant, he would have fallen on his hands and knees without a single moment's hesitation. Subaru was not only surprised at her seeing right through him, but he also had to take his hat off to her skill as a great stateswoman. Still, he he was able to avoid kneeling before her because Ferris was the first to respond to her words. Ah, Lady Crush, I swear again to exhaust my life in service of my master. Then I can only respond to your loyalty with the entirety of my spirit. Suburunatsky, strive to do nothing that would diminish yourself. I do not want to think of you as an insignificant foe. Varys' loyalty, Crush's nobility, both stirred Subaru's heart deeply. He wet his parched tongue, failing to form words several times before he managed to speak. Lending an enemy a hand, huh? It's awfully nice of you to give your opponents a fighting chance. This matter is important enough to decide the future of the entire nation. This might be highly impudent of me to say, but if I must struggle for the throne, I wish for it to be against worthy rivals. A crown earned by defeating weaklings would do nothing to impress the lords of the land. Wanting strong opponents means you're confident about beating them, huh? I have no such confidence whatsoever. What I have is will, and I have poured effort into achieving optimal results so that I can do what I must. Furthermore, I hope that my rivals do the same. This was the individual named Crush Karsten, for every thought humble until the bitter end. Having exchanged drinks with her like this, the impressions he held of her, sincere, high class, changed. This was a woman like a sword, fierce as a firestorm, pitiless as a naked blade. Paris relaxed his voice, clapping his hands together as to dissolve the tense atmosphere. Somehow, the conversation became so formal. Let's unwind now. Bathed in a cool breeze, Subaru realized that his brow was covered in sweat. Crush replied, I'm sorry for speaking so stiffly. I mustn't get carried away with entertainment or my drinks. No. You needn't apologize for anything, Lady Crush. Subaru understands what he needs to do, meow. Varys' words, summarizing the earlier conversation, sounded very hollow to Subaru's ears. What I need to do now? Surely he understands, had been the implication, but Subaru couldn't put his finger on it. The only things he'd picked up during the evening spent over drinks were that Crush and Ferris shared an unshakable bond and that he was small and confused. Subaru didn't see anything about what was to come or what he needed to do. Yet in spite of all that, what could Subaru tell them that he now understood? As far as Fairy's concerned, having Lady Amelia and Subaru all split up is kind of fun, but that's not what Lady Crush wants at all. So, you need to make up with Lady Amelia as soon as possible, and do what you can do to make that happen. What I can do? Could he really accomplish anything, worn to the bone as he was? Yes. A long time ago, back when Fairy became Lady Crush's knight, he thought very hard about what he could accomplish. Varys put a hand to his chest as he returned to that time in his memories. Crush's lips slackened slightly as she glanced over at him like that. For a moment, Subaru's heart beat faster in his chest. Something only Suburunovsky could do? He realized it, as if it had come down to him like a revelation from the heavens itself. There is something I can do. Both the others glanced at him as he continued. There's something only I can do. Yeah, that's right. No one should have had to tell me that. Now he knew. No, he'd always known. He'd been reminded when he had been on the verge of forgetting. Truly, Crush and Ferris were benevolent people. They were providing aid to the enemy with everything they had, like the famous Kenshin Uesugi. He had reminded Subaru of exactly what he could do for Amelia's sake. Yeah, I have something. I've always had it. It had nothing to do with power, or knowledge, or rank, or status. It didn't need to. For, just as Ferris had said, Subaru possessed a single, ultimate weapon. It had been in him from the beginning, but everything that had happened to him had shoved it into a dark corner of his mind. Images of Julius, Reinhard, and Amelia came to him, one after another. All of them looked at Subaru with contempt sharp enough to cut his soul. These were the people Subaru Natsuki had to prove himself to. I just need a chance. If I can get that, I can make all my problems go away. Subaru felt like a dark cloud had lifted as doubt left his heart and he gained confidence in its place. He clenched a strong, tight fist, picturing a silver-haired girl on the back of his mind. Trush gently turned her wineglass around in her hand as she murmured offhandedly, "The wind blows stronger. It would seem tomorrow's weather will be somewhat stormy." Then, with a small sound, the melting ice cubes within her glass neatly split in two.